What's up, psychedelic investors? Today, we're going to be talking about a brand new patent application made by MindMed, which is, of course, ticker symbol MNMD on the NASDAQ exchange and MMED on the Canadian NEO exchange, and a company you probably haven't heard of before called BioXcel Therapeutics. Now, for those of you like me who had never heard of BioXcel Therapeutics before this news release came out, they are a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company utilizing artificial intelligence approaches to develop medicines in neuroscience and immuno-oncology. Now, before we actually get into what the patent application says, imagine this, if you will. A person diagnosed with psychosis is having a really bad day. Nothing is going their way and they're getting more and more agitated. Left on their own, they continue to get ever more frustrated and their mind travels to unsafe territory. But rather than this situation continuing to escalate, a health monitoring watch worn by the person picks up on the change in physiological signals that the body is giving, such as an increase in heart rate and blood pressure. And an algorithm identifies that this person is becoming ever more agitated, and left to their own devices, an unsafe situation may occur. Their therapist is automatically contacted, who sees this escalating situation and calls their patient to intervene before the problem escalates into a crisis. Perhaps the therapist is able to talk through the situation, the issue with their patient, or maybe some medication needs to be delivered immediately. Either way, what could have been a dangerous situation is resolved before it went too far, with the aid of modern digital medicine. This story is essentially what MindMed and BioXcel are working together towards in their new patent. The patent is for, quote, detecting and preventing the early onset of agitation in patients predisposed to highly agitated behavior. Now, just to be absolutely completely clear, agitation itself is not an illness to be treated, but rather it is a symptom of many other neurological and psychological disorders such as dementia, psychosis, and schizophrenia. Agitation can show itself in excessive motor or verbal activity, irritability, or uncooperativeness, among other signs. And it is important to be able to detect agitation in real time because it is often a precursor to aggressive or even violent behavior. In fact, agitation is a frequent driver of emergency care and can lead to physical injury to patients and caregivers. And when severe or repetitive, agitation can lead to the need for facility-based care in individuals who could otherwise be cared for at home. Therefore, the main idea behind this new patent is to be able to track and monitor potential agitation, to be able to intervene either with medication or talk therapy sooner, rather than waiting for a crisis to develop. But how does MindMed and BioXcel intend to actually do this? And why the heck is a psychedelic medicines company working on a patent for detecting agitation? Well, stay tuned to find out more in the episode. I'm James from the Psychedelic Investor, and if you enjoy this episode, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, share the video with your mom, comment, hit that notifications bell, and most importantly, enjoy the episode. Something important to understand about MindMed is that they are not necessarily just a psychedelics company. No. They are a mental health care company. And, importantly, essentially, a technology company. One of their major developmental pathways is digital medicine, being able to monitor patients in real time to better diagnose issues using machine learning. This sector of their business falls under the codename Project Albert. So for this patent measuring agitation in real time, there are several important parts. First, patients wear a, quote, automated sensoring device placed on or mounted on the subject's skin surface. This sensor can monitor bodily variables such as a change in heart rate, blood pressure, pulse, respiratory rates, and more. As for what the device actually looks like, it could be something worn on the wrist, like a watch, something on the finger, or even a belt worn around their waist. And something that is important to drive home here is this part is actually relatively easy to do. We already have the technology that can measure these variables relatively accurately. For example, even the Apple Watch can do most of this. That is why measuring these variables is not enough. Instead, we need a system that in real time can read the data and identify when a person's variables correlate to an agitation event, and when it is serious enough for a caregiver to be notified or for meds to be delivered. This is the secret sauce. In order to do this, an algorithm deploying deep learning must be used. Through training and learning what agitation episodes look like, the algorithm should be able to independently and crucially autonomously notify caregivers. In reading the patent application, it's honestly not at all clear to me how advanced these two companies are in developing such a software. And to be absolutely clear, this is a much more difficult problem than it seems on the surface. For example, this algorithm would have to be able to differentiate between your levels being elevated because you're in a fit of rage, as compared to them, I don't know, being elevated because you just did an intense workout. Or maybe you got really scared during a horror movie. I know I do. So, if they already have this algorithm perfected and the training portion is finished, and this, frankly guys, this is going to be a really big deal. However, if not, as I suspect they don't have it finished yet, there is no telling how long it could take to fully complete this algorithm. Could it take a month? A year? 5 years? Never? Only time will tell. As for where the data is going to be crunched, this will take place on a separate device, perhaps even on an app on your own personal cell phone. So if they do perfect this algorithm, the third part is having the system notify the person's caregiver that there is an issue that may need immediate attention. Now this is super important because as it stands, often caretakers don't even find out about agitation episodes until it is way too late, such as if the person ends up being hospitalized or even worse, perhaps ends up in jail. So if these people are able to intervene earlier, hopefully it will prevent serious adverse events from happening in the first place. Perhaps they can call their patient, or in extreme circumstances, emergency services can be sent to help. The final part of this patent is deploying medicine. And this can be done in one of two ways. Either it can be done in person, or perhaps there can be another remote location that stores the medication, and that is unlocked remotely by the therapist, and the patient can access their meds when the therapist deems it necessary. And whether these meds are of a psychedelic-derived variety, such as, I don't know, say a LSD derivative, or something more traditional like antipsychotic drugs, is yet to be seen. Nevertheless, reading through this patent application, I am impressed with the ambition of this project. This can not only be deployed in the real world, but also be used effectively in clinical trials, helping gather better data on the effects of psychedelic medicines. It should also be made clear, and this is super duper important, that MindMed intends to be seen not solely as a psychedelic medicines company, but also as a digital medicines company, which they are making clear with this patent application. It is possible that this project will have nothing to do with psychedelics at all, although again, it's still possible that the drugs that are deployed will be psychedelic derived. I do, however, guys, want to add a note of caution, so please pay attention to what I am about to say next. This is only, as it stands, a patent application. It is yet to be granted yet. We've also not seen a proof of concept. So as it stands, this can only be considered a good idea. Yes, if they have a working algorithm that's not littered with false positives, that notify caregivers every time the patient becomes, I don't know, out of breath after walking up a steep flight of stairs, or equally as bad, if it fails to notify caregivers when a genuine agitation episode happens. So if their algorithm can avoid these two pitfalls, then MindMed and BioXcel may have a really great and commercializable product on their hands. But ultimately, guys, we're just going to need to wait and see until we actually get a demonstration of this before we can say that they have this technology. I also find it interesting how they even decided to publish this patent application in the first place. On their last conference call, they actually talked about how they wanted to keep their cards close to their chest when it comes to patent applications and not disclose them until they absolutely have to, particularly when it comes to Project Albert and their digital medicines technologies. So I'm not exactly sure why they decided to release this patent application right now. Maybe BioXcel wanted it released, so the two companies decided it was in their best interest to do it, or maybe there was some other reason that we're not aware of. But either way, this was very exciting to read through. And honestly, guys, it reminded me of the reason I like MindMed as a company so much. Their mission is to help defeat the mental health care crisis, and they often approach these problems in a holistic manner. Rather than just waiting around, twiddling your thumbs for a crisis to happen, and having to treat a patient in the aftermath, they're looking for ways to intervene before the crisis even happens. And again, I don't know if this application will actually be successful or not, it's too early to tell, but if it is, it kind of sounds like it's going to be a big deal. But what do you guys think? Tell me in the comments whether this patent excites you and whether this is something that you think MindMed should be expending money and, crucially, manpower on. Or, alternatively, do you think that they should not spread their resources too thin and they should instead focus on their LSD, 18-MC, DMT, MDMA, and psilocybin clinical trials? They already have a lot on their plate. Anyhow, either way, I want to hear your guys' opinion down in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching until the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notifications bell, comment, all that good stuff. It really supports the channel, and I appreciate it so much. And also, while you're there, check out the videos you see on your screen now so we can spend a little bit more time together. This is James from the Psychedelic Investor. I'll see you next time.